Since 2008, the Ministry of Labor, Invalids and Social Affairs issued Decision Number 9 on the principles and procedures for the development and promulgation of National Vocational Skills Standards. The National Vocational Skills Standard is defined in terms of professional knowledge, practical ability, and the ability to apply that knowledge and capability to the work that workers must have in accordance with their skill level for each occupation. This is a set of criteria for the ability of the employees to perform the work in accordance with the law. Since then, the General Department of Vocational Training has developed the framework of national vocational skills for nearly 200 occupations in many fields like industry, tourism, services, and hospitality. In the field of logistics, a relatively new industry in Vietnam, industry standards are being developed with the support of the Australian Industry Standards, AIS. In recent years, AIS has collaborated with the Australian program to support Vietnam human resources development. Oxford Skills and the Vietnam Chamber of Commerce and Industry held many skill training courses, as well as information exchanges between the parties, with the aim of developing skill standards that meet the realities of the market, thereby enhancing the quality of human resources in the field of logistics in Vietnam.
Greetings from Trang Vietnam on VTC10 Net Việt. In today's show, let's talk about developing vocational training standards for logistics industry in Vietnam. And the guest speaker in our program today is Mr. Guru, an expert from Australia who has a lot of experience in this industry. Thank you for joining our interview today. The first question is that you have been interacting and working with a lot of businesses and also their employees in Vietnam. So for the past few times coming here, so what is your impression on them?
My impression of Vietnam has always been very good. Vietnam has a very proud history of doing things that the world expected it would not be able to do. And Vietnam is showing every time that they can rise to whatever the changes are, whatever the circumstances are, and Vietnam does very well. So what I have in mind about the people I meet here, the business people, the working people, the government people, is they identify a challenge, they meet it, they do it. So I have full confidence in whatever Vietnam does, Vietnam can do it.
So what can you say about the professional skills standards of the Vietnamese employees, and particularly if we compare with other countries, what can you say about them?
Yeah, well, let's talk about the Vietnamese people first. I think Vietnam has been through a very big change over the last few years. Korean companies and Japanese companies and many other companies from the world are putting their production bases here in Vietnam. There are Australian companies also involved in that. And the reason we should recognize that companies are coming here is for two reasons. The first one is, of course, that the production line is more efficient. It is cheaper, but also more efficient. Secondly, that the people here have the capability to learn new skills and apply those new skills quickly enough and effectively enough. But this is an endorsement that Vietnam needs to recognize, given by the commercial world from other companies, from other countries. How it is compared to other countries, I think every country has a unique position in its development, in its history, in its abilities, in its education, and its training. So comparing it with any other country becomes a little bit difficult. But what we need to recognize is that Vietnam has the ability to learn quickly, to adapt very quickly to the changes, and play with those changes and be successful in them.
In Vietnam set the standard for vocational training and is now applying it. So what is your opinion about this effort of Vietnam, and particularly the Ministry of Labor, Invalids and Social Affairs?
This is a very positive step. It's a very welcome step, and it's a very important step to develop Vietnam's capability. This standard that the Vietnamese government has released last year in 2017 allows formally structuring vocational training and allowing the development of skills, getting the help from many countries around the world, including from Australia. And we are very proud and happy to be here to develop these skills in Vietnam. These standards allow us to map those skills against a proper structure. The colleges can use the structure to develop their training, and the industry has a participation in that to identify the training they need. so that the product of the colleges is useful for the industry whenever they are successful in completing their studies and training. I think this is a very welcome step. It should provide a lot of benefit to Vietnam in the years to come.
In Australia, how was the vocational training standards developed and applied? So can you share with us more about the experiences in Australia?
The development of training and the use of the Australian, what we call the TAFE system, the tertiary and further education system in Australia, started really about in about the mid-80s, so it's been going on for a long time. So we have an experience of 30 years or more. We have made a lot of mistakes, we have learned a lot of lessons, we have improved. So we are one of the leading countries in the world in vocational education and training. But that road has not been without its lessons and without its bumps. So we have learnt things that we have done wrong. We are improving on it all the time. And we are here to share our lessons with Vietnam so that Vietnam does not have to go through the same mistakes as we probably did in the past. Having said that, it is not true to say that we are already reached the place where we cannot improve. We are definitely improving. The Prime Minister has recently announced a review of the vocational education and training in Australia, and we will move to the next stage of developing it. And as we are developing, we will continue to share our lessons with Vietnam so Vietnam can also benefit from it.
Regarding logistics, the training on logistics has been focused over the past 2 years. So what can you share with us when setting up the standards for the logistics industry?
Logistics is not only 2 years old in Vietnam. Logistics is very old. Logistics has been in Vietnam for a very long time. It has been formally recognized 2 years ago as a specific training. So the experience of logistics exists in Vietnam over a very long time. And this development of formalizing of the industry and formalizing the training process will draw on that long experience, will draw upon the existing structures that the government has with training providers as well as with the industry, and bring that learning very quickly into the training methods of this country. We have today been discussing in the workshop what processes are used to identify occupational standards and what processes are used to validate those standards. And we find that they are not very different in Vietnam from Australia. And what we will bring into that situation is our experience of developing it quickly, moving into a future where Industry 4.0 will require more and more skills. And we will bring that into the workshops in the next 3 workshops that we will run, so that the Vietnamese logistics industry is suitably prepared to take on the challenges of Industry 4.0.
What does a logistics employee do? In the job description, logistics employees analyze and coordinate the supply chain of an organization. They manage a product line, including purchasing, distribution, and delivery. Their mission is to develop business relationships with suppliers and customers, understand customer needs and how to meet their requirements, control the distribution of raw materials, supplies, and finished goods, put forth a strategy to minimize the cost or time needed for freight operations. They monitor purchasing, shipping, inventory, and distribution operations. They can direct the transport of many kinds of goods, personnel, and supplies, including ordinary consumer goods to military supplies. Currently, vocational schools are working with the industry to unify the training criteria in the best way.
Việc mà đào tạo nghề, đào tạo nguồn nhân lực mà theo có cái sự dẫn dắt của doanh nghiệp ấy, thì nó sẽ sát hơn với lại cái nhu cầu của doanh nghiệp, bởi vì là sản phẩm đào tạo ra thì lại sẽ phục vụ cái đối tượng là các cái doanh nghiệp. Cho nên là những cái mà tiêu chuẩn nghề mà được phát triển từ phía doanh nghiệp, được tham vấn một cách cụ thể sâu từ phía doanh nghiệp, từ phía ngành, thì nó sẽ sát hơn với cái nhu cầu mà thị trường lao động, với những cái nhu cầu mà người sử dụng lao động cần cho tương lai.
According to the Vietnam Logistics Service Association, from 2017 to 2020, The Vietnamese logistics industry needs an additional 200,000 high-quality workers with professional qualifications, skills, and English proficiency. By 2025, the number will be 300,000 professionals qualified in information technology, English skills to meet the requirements in the context of the Industrial Revolution 4.0. In Vietnam, there are currently 3 types of logistic training: at vocational training centers, in associations, and in enterprises. According to the General Department of Vocational Education, in Vietnam, there are fewer than 20 training institutions specializing in logistics.
So back in Australia, what are the criteria for the logistics industry being or were developed by the Australian government?
The Australian government provides a broad framework for development. It does not detail in very small steps what should be done. So it identifies its goals, it identifies what the tertiary and further education sector should be doing and developing skills. It also has an Australian qualification framework which structures all the learning from schools, at the end of schools, from the Certificate 1 all the way to the doctorate level at the AQF 10 level. So it clearly structures the positioning and the aligning of the development of training and knowledge into a single framework. That allows the growth of knowledge, that allows the growth of careers, of people, and that allows the development of careers for individuals who move from one job to another, sometimes move from one industry to another, but they carry their knowledge with them. So it leads to industry getting the benefits of the knowledge development, individuals getting the benefits of a flexible career and being able to map what they need to do next. So to sum up again what you asked, the Australian government provides a framework into which the industry, the education sector and the regulators come together in a triangular agreement, and the structure of the program works like that.
What is your forecast on the changes in human resource majoring in logistics if we apply the standards to the recruitment process?
So what we're doing when we are developing the occupation standards here in the workshop, for instance, is that we identify an occupation, and into that identification of the occupation we also put in place what would be required for somebody to do this work, what sort of background they should come from, what knowledge they should bring, then what should be the training that leads to that occupation, and finally how is that occupation validated and how is the training validated for the industry. So it goes into those 3 stages of coming with a certain foundation knowledge, being trained up to the needs of the occupation, and then being validated by the industry for having that validation. And I think this is a very useful structure that has been put in place by the government. And we have visited a few colleges around Ho Chi Minh City, and we find that is being implemented quite widely in all those colleges.
Finally, what is your plan for cooperating with the Vietnamese side to promote and also to develop the standards for logistics industry?
At the moment, we have an agreement through OS4 Skills to develop this workshop. This workshop will go to August next year, and we will remain in contact with OS4 Skills and any other relevant parts of the Vietnamese economy and government who would like our support in developing whatever the skills are. We don't have a specific program for Vietnam. What we would like to do is to respond to Vietnamese needs and provide whatever help we can in whichever sector Vietnam requires us to provide them.
Once again, thank you for joining us and for your meaningful sharings today. And that's all we have for this episode of Sang Vietnam today. For comment and feedback, don't hesitate to write to us at sangvietnam@netvietttv.net. Thank you for watching and goodbye for now.